So I decided I'm gonna do keep doing videos because I like reading the comments and the fact that people like listened to what I had to say on Andy Edwards and Rick Beato, and that we basically it allowed me to have this sense of when I worked at the record store 20 some years ago, and people got to have sort of musical conversations because we don't really have a space for that, um, a physical space for that anymore. We have record stores and things like that, but physical places where people can talk about books and music and movies and stuff like that. It's much more relegated to being online. And I generally like to have those conversations. So this is an opportunity to continue doing that, and we're going to do that. Um, One of the things I wanted to say about um, record stores in general is that I have a thing that if I do listen to music on Spotify, I make playlists on Spotify, but if I like something, um like it enough, I generally like try to find a way to like purchase it on either CD or record. And I listen to more CDs because I like that experience. So um I figured I was going to do um an album. I'm going to talk about my favorite album of 2025, and I did buy a lot of CDs and some records this year, but not all of them were from 2025. There's two artists and two records that came out this year that I really liked. I'm going to only talk about one of them right now. So this is my favorite. It's V by Doja Cat, right? So this is like a pop record, and I think that I heard about Doja Cat. Um, I was at work and someone played. It was my old job, and someone played "Kiss Me More," and I liked it, and I was like, "Who's this?" And my friend who played it she was like, "Oh, this is Doja Cat. Like you don't know her?" And I was like, "No, you know." And I listened to that, and I listened to some other music that she had, and it was kind of inconsistent. It was not really, I thought "Kiss Me More" was really good, and it had that thing that, I think it was Nick Cave talked about. Nick Cave had this thing once where he was talking about pop music and how a really great pop song and Wayne Cohn from Flaming Lips also said this one time too, but, pop music that's really good has it's catchy, but it also has this melancholic aspect to it. And if you have just the sunshine aspect of pop music, it's sort of lacking. There has to be a melancholic aspect to it. And I thought that Kiss Me More had that sort of multidimensionality to it that I really appreciate in pop music. But some of the other stuff that she had, it didn't so much. And one of the things that with with this record is that it's a really consistent album. It aesthetically, it has like the vibe, which is like this 80s sort of vibe. And it's using saxophone, and it's using like R&B stuff, or R&B tropes, and like her singing is, I think, exceptionally well done on this album, and her rapping also is one of those things where the rapping never really gets in the way of the song itself. The rapping, a lot of times rapping in pop music can be very distracting, and the really one of the really great things about this album is that it never gets distracting. It's There's a lot of clever wordplay and really ingenious lyrics, and plays on words and concepts. She has a thing where she kind of riffs on like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air at one point in one of the songs, and it's but it doesn't really distract you from the overall sort of song. And almost every song on this album is is very good to great. And one of the things that I was thinking about about this video, and in relation to the last video where I was talking about Rick Beato and Andy Edwards and the prioritizing of like songwriting and songcraft, is that I think of I think that when we're talking about songcraft, I think that you have inspiration. And inspiration, in a sense, it kind of gives you this idea of where you want to go or what you want to do, right? But what it sort of creates for you is a puzzle, and you have to sort of solve the puzzle. And uh, genres, instruments, lyrics, techniques, as far as vocal techniques or production techniques, these are all different ways that you have of like getting to that destination. You could think of it as getting to a destination, but I also kind of like to think of it as like solving a puzzle. Because if you're constructing a song, you're thinking about different ways that you can make you want to make the song. Anytime you're doing a song, you want to make the song as good as you can possibly do, because it has to sort of live up to what your sense of inspiration promised. And so that if having that kind of drive or that sort of dedication can lead you to making like a chorus half a chorus, or adding outros to choruses or intros to choruses and things like that, and or utilizing other sort of uh extraneous kinds of instruments in the mix of a song in a way that really you know kind of plays off what's going on. People mentioned for this album that she does that a lot with the saxophone, and they're looking at it as kind of like a pastiche. And yeah, in a sense it is kind of a pastiche, but I think that her inspiration and the songcraft, I know she didn't solely write these songs, she had people around her working with her on them, but I think that her focus was just really dialed in, and she was able to really maintain a just a intense focus and precision of what she was trying to create artistically throughout the whole album. And there's aspects of it that remind me of like Prince, like Sign of the Times era Prince. She does vocal stuff that's like really reminiscent of Prince. There's Janet Jackson stuff on here. There's another band too that I wanted to bring up in relation, that I don't think she's aware of them, but a lot of it reminds me of this album, Kaput by Destroyer, because there's an 80s sort of aesthetic to this too. And so I kind of think that with this album, she kind of came into her own in a comprehensive way, you know. And I'm a big fan, and I'm going to try to do more videos on this where talking about specific artists and stuff more from the past and whatever, of different genres I like. I really like when artists like totally home in, buckle down, and create like the best album or the best presentation of not who they are, but who and what they're doing at that moment in time. And I think that V by Doja Cat is really an incredible distillation of her artistic strengths at this moment. And I've listened to it a ton. And another thing I want to just add at the end of this too is that there's a thing I think about pop music that people are dismissive about pop music for a lot of reasons. And I remember one thing that when I had a moment of being dismissive towards it, I saw a Lady Gaga video. It was back when Lady Gaga was sort of blowing up. I'm not really into her. I don't really care for her. But it was like maybe Bad Romance or something. And I watched this video and it was just like countless costume changes and it was just so much going on and it was so distracting that I couldn't even really pay attention to the song. And so there's that spectacle, the society of the spectacle. It's like Guy Debord would say, right? So there's this spectacle aspect, and I think to people that are more into music, older people like into rock, more AOR things like that, they're not looking for that kind of spectacle, and I think that they don't like it. But then I think the thing that there is dislikable about that or unlikable is that spectacle. It's kind of exhausting. um like certain pop videos and stuff, there's so much going on, or certain songs, there's so much going on that it's just exhausting. And so Doja Cat in the past, now I don't think on the songs that she's done before that were really good, I don't think she really did it. I think she kind of honed in. But I think that in the past she had stuff where it was a lot going on and it was kind of exhausting. And I think with this, doing this sort of 80s pastiche, where she's also incorporating sort of who she is at her age and what's going on musically now, I think it's limited the scope of things. And it's not as spectacle oriented and it's not as distracting. She maybe dresses up kind of in 80s outfits for some of the promo stuff or whatever, but that's it. It's minimal, and I like that, and I think that helps too, and that's a good sign if that's concurrent with what's going on musically. If what you're doing visually is not extravagant, then there's like a happy sort of medium. Like you figure like Bowie and Bowie's like Glass Spider tour or something. I love Bowie, but I remember people really kind of dismissing that back in the record store days, and it was with Never Let Me Down, which is not a terrible album. As I used to think Never Let Me Down was really terrible, but um that that big spectacle thing, it's just, I don't know. To me, it's just kind of dangerous. And that's just a kind of a final thought on this aspect of pop, is that the spectacle aspect and this constant evolving novelty within songs or something, that can be kind of exhausting and taxing to someone who would not be adverse to particular pop songs. So, just to conclude, I think this album is great. I think that my favorite song on here is, I think it's the Stranger or something like that. I can't, that's the good thing. If you're listening to stuff on CD, it's like you're listening to the whole thing. You're not really even keeping track of the song titles, you know? And that's kind of how music should be. So that's the end of this video. I'm going to try to keep any videos I do under like 15 minutes because, people have stuff they have to do. And yeah, like, subscribe. I appreciate anybody that does. Check out the Happy Casualties. That's my band. And take it easy.